welcome to my YouTube channel. I've decided to start posting on here, so this is what you might expect from some of my videos. So it can range from lifestyle, weekly vlogs, and then I'll be uploading vlogs about my dance, things that I'm working on. This includes, it can be Latin ballroom or ballet, and then I'll be talking about beauty routines that I do and new experiments that I'm working on in terms of my beauty routine. So you can follow, click subscribe, and I also have some of my social links down below. So today I'm going to share with you my dance journey, and it wasn't linear at all. This is something that I started. I had my very first dance class when I was about 12. But before that, I'll talk about my journey into the performing arts, and that's where I have always found my solace as a child, and it has carried me a long ways, and I've been able to develop myself into a better person, and I've always liked creating, and it helps me to give to the world. So it's a gift that I try and steward, and it's also something that I really can't live without. So I grew up in a place called Brampton, Ontario, and that is based in the GTA. It's about an hour's drive from Toronto. And I went to an elementary school where I had a grade 5 teacher. She noticed some gifting that I had regarding the arts, and I think it was more so based on some of the art that I was creating and some sculptures, and I ended up being referred to an arts program for a middle school, and I knew at the time that my circumstances and my family's socioeconomic status at the time, I wasn't able to divulge and fully immerse myself into the arts in a way that some people might be able to, but they still made it happen. So I ended up attending this arts middle school, and it was a experience of a lifetime, and I think that really formed me into the person that I am now. And not only did I do a lot of performing arts work, but I also divulged into a lot of my volunteer work. So that's how I ended up becoming a Mother Teresa somewhere down the road. So I attended this middle school, and our main focus was actually classical music. So I played the clarinet for those 3 years, and we did a lot of competing throughout southern Ontario, more so in the cities. And so I competed with my orchestra band, and looking back, I have a little sister. She reminded me of all the competitions that she would attend with my parents, and these are things that I don't necessarily remember, but I have vague memories about it. But everyone else has some vivid memories about these things. So traveled, and within that arts program we also did dance, and that's where I had my first few dance classes within those programs that I was in, and then I also I was still doing visual arts, but I ended up falling in love with music and dance as well. So after that, I ended up going to an arts high school. And I had two options, after that middle school. I could either go to an arts high school that was out in the country, so a little bit further out, in a place called Caledon, and that was Mayfield. However, we didn't have the financials for me to do that. So that, among other reasons of, perhaps my family wanting me to be a little bit closer. And, it's looking back, I'm content. But at the time, I thought, well, why can't I go to, this Mayfield place? And anyways, it turned out more, but things being better than I had expected. So I ended up in another arts high school, but this was a Catholic high school. And I found out, a few weeks or months ago now that that high school has a very, very good reputation for the arts program that it has built over the years. But going back to my time in high school, I ended up getting an academic award for dance, and I was told to get a little bit more serious about my classes and to start taking more classes at a dance studio. So there, I took some ballet, but I was never super serious about it. I was there so that I could do jazz and hip hop and be a part of the competitive team. And and along the way, I ended up needing to support myself financially in terms of the extracurriculars that I wanted to do. So I ended up working, and unfortunately I wasn't able to keep up with everything that I was doing. And then I actually ended up getting bumped by a car. This was a bit after I left high school, but bumped by a car, and I had to drop out of some of my classes. And then following that, I ended up with actually no, I got the concussion before I got bumped by a car. So I was out skating, and yeah, so a few things happening within a very short time period that caused me to need to reevaluate things, and more so recommendations from my doctor. So I had to take a little bit of a break. And fast forward a little bit, I didn't end up going to university right away. So I ended up dancing almost full time in Toronto, and I did that for a few months, and my main focus was actually commercial styles, and then I did some ballet along with that. And then I ended up making it into a pre-professional training program at a place called City Dance Corps. And that is where I just fell in love even more with dance. And so my specialty was actually concert styles. So that includes jazz, and you need a really strong ballet background for that. So ballet was always floating around in the background along with the other things that I like to do. And then I ended up in a professional hip hop company. And from there, you could end up in some sort of a movie or do commercial dance, touring with artists, go on Broadway or something. But I ended up finishing up my schooling, and after that, I just decided that, you know what, I really like ballet, and it wasn't until, we're fast forwarding several years later, we end up in the pandemic, and I ended up traveling with the Red Cross. And during my travels, I decided, you know what, I need to keep something going for myself. And my first experience of being back in the studio, working on things on my own, was actually in a place called Kamloops, British Columbia. So I connected with a studio owner there, and they let me use their studio space. And it was great. I was able to get back to some of my pump turns, and I think there was one video that I put online at that point. And that video, I think I had about 8 turns in that video. And then I ended up actually auditioning virtually for a dance company. And this is actually someone from So You Think You Can Dance. And I made it to the final round of the audition, and it was actually incredible to actually make it to the final round, because that was it was pretty challenging. And then after that, I ended up watching a movie, and this was a dance documentary, and then I realized that there were some people in this documentary that reposted one of my videos when I was a teenager. And at the time, I didn't go to their dance intensive that they had extended an invitation to, but I realized that they were in this movie, and I thought, well, this is pretty crazy. So my next deployment that I had, I was actually a little bit closer to the city center in Ontario again, and then I ended up traveling on the weekends for some dance classes. And at the time, I would say that I was quite rusty, in that, I've had some gaps in my training, and then, dealing with inactivity and the muscle tightness that I ended up having due to my inactivity, and memory, but it was all in my body still. So that muscle memory carried me through. So the pandemic ended, and then I was living up in a place called the Grey Bruce, and they didn't have a lot of advanced classes. So I always ended up doing like beginner level classes, and it just wasn't enough for me. Like, yes, I love being in spaces where I'm working on the basics, and that's also really important for me to continue. But I just needed something more, and I needed more advanced. So fast forward, ended up at a dance intensive, and that is where I fell in love with ballet all over again. And well, the rest is really history, because I ended up moving to a place where the arts is a very big part of the social fabric, and that is the great city of Ottawa. So I'm able to actually take classes, I would say any day that I want, and I've been able to really work and hone in on my technique. So over the years, I've been able to accumulate some things that have helped me to stay on track of my ballet goals. But I'm finally at a place where I'm a little bit more relaxed in terms of my sense of direction with ballet, and knowing that there are still opportunities out there, and you can also create opportunities for yourself and for others, and that's really important for me, and that's where the rest of the story comes in. So, backtracking back to the pandemic and my work with the Red Cross, and I'd come home, and I'd start compiling different things from books, and realizing that that this is kind of how it all worked out. So I ended up doing a timeline of my route to ballet. So we have academic award, ballet classes, competitions. Yes, I forgot that I also did African dance at one point, but I didn't score the highest in my class, and it was a little bit disappointing. But that's okay. So, just reminiscing. I learned some really cool stuff in that class, and these are things that I will definitely be incorporating in other projects that I end up working on. And then I also did, it was Mongolian dance. That's what happened. Yeah, so I did Mongolian and African dance in university as extra credits. So that semester that I did at York University, I did a lot of fun stuff there. And I ended up meeting a woman who was actually the captain of the cheer team. And at the time, I didn't know that she was a captain, but she invited me to one of their rehearsals. And then shortly after, that's when I dropped out of university. So that was really interesting. I have a few more stories when it comes to cheerleading, but I've kind of decided that over the years, I think that's a very university kind of thing for me to do, and it was something that I would have added onto my scheduling, but it's important to have that sense of focus, and I think cheerleading would have really thrown me off track and into a totally different lifestyle. So we have the professional training program, and then I met one of my favorite ballet teachers. She was part of the National Ballet of Canada, and then I started some hip hop stuff, and then someone reposted my contemporary video, and then I started a dance camp in a place called the Keele and Finch area of Toronto. And then I did a heels dance company, and then I started fundraising for the Pennsylvania Ballet, and then I had my advanced foundation half semester, and then I had another injury. So most of my injuries are non-dance, and I mentioned this in another video, but this injury in particular, it was in 2018, and this was where I think I was just walking in a stairwell, and then I I tripped over my ankle. So anyways, 2020 major weight loss, and I fell in love with ballet. And then I have 2020, 2021. The movies that I saw where I noticed certain individuals in there. And then 2021, I began repertoire level 2 and intermediate foundation, as well as 3. And then after that, I found out that I had a great connection to the arts and ballet in particular, in the foundation of some of our institutions here in Canada. And I really didn't care a whole lot at the time when I was being told some of these things. But later on, I really started to realize how special some of these things are, and to steward, my talents. And yeah, so anyways, then I end up meeting a few more people that would impact my life in terms of my connection to the world of the arts in Canada. And then we have the So You Think You Can Dance. And then I have so I did a half a semester of intermediate in the Grey Bruce, and then I had the passing of another major figure in my life. And then we have, ta-da! I'm now in Ottawa, and I have lots of ballet and lots of direction. So this is one of my books that I use in terms of my organization for my ballet. And here, I came up with this list. It must have been in about 2023, but this is what I have on there in terms of what I need to do to accomplish my goals. And so first, that started with typing my vocabulary for exam notes, exam exercise notes, reviewing vocabulary and notes, organizing notes in my mind, and flashcards. So I also have that. And then at the end of it, I'm hoping to have the advanced ballet understanding, all of my vocabulary memorized, including the different styles or different schools of ballet and how that intertwines with one another, and being able to differentiate between the different schools. And, for example, I think it's in Kichetti where they'll say, stand and be plus, whereas, in RED we might just say prepare or something like that. So little nuances. So I have that, and then flexibility goals. I'm now at 140 degrees in terms of my range of motion for my leg hold in a la seconde. So that was really cool. As a teenager, I was always only able to just whack my leg up to my head, but being able to hold it there, and that is, I think, the beauty of ballet. In jazz, you're always performing some very flashy things, but ballet is more of a control kind of thing. So we're working on that. And then I have choreography retention, which I was never good at. So actually, there was one time where I was really, really good at choreography retention, but that was also because I was dancing 7 hours a day. So, moving on. So I have my vocabulary notes, and these are notes that I have compiled from my ballet book, and this is from the first plie to mastery, and this is something that I used. I think this one was, yes, I think this one was RAD. Wait a minute. So I actually think that, yeah, so it's from the Royal Ballet. Okay, and then I have also notes from just things that I found online on things like the Ballet Hub. And I also looked into the complete terminology, and some of these are from the Vaganova schools, and then Cacchetti, and then I've compiled all of them into my own so that I have an encompassing list for all of the ballet schools, and so that I'm not flipping around in my book and my binder to see what I'm missing. So I have this organized into turns, movement quality, directions, jumps, steps, and that is what I have. And then I also compiled a intermediate vocabulary list and an advanced vocabulary list, and that is that binder. Maybe one day I will come up with a study guide down the road, but not right now. And then I have the ballet book, and this is from the National Ballet, and this is RAD. And then I have the Dance Bible. This is something that I've had since I was a teenager, and for me this was mostly about how to take care of my body. Oh, what's this? Okay, so I have vocabulary from hip hop. The Party Duck from the 70s, this would be locking, Watergate, Four Corners, the Zulu spin, and then I have some break dancing, the knee rock, the back rock, 4-step, 5-step. From locking I have the Tony Go-Go, Stop and Go, Scooby-Doo, Skeeter Rabbit. And then I have some house in there as well. And then I have my vocabulary. This looks like a very basic, I'm not sure who gave me this, but this is for intermediate foundation. This must have been something that I did when I was a teen for one of my classes. I never did my exams, and that's something that, looking back, I wish I did, but that's something that I'm going to get back to as soon as I can. All right, so in this book, back to the book, I have imagery, rest, body awareness, nutrition, and then things about modern dance, ballroom, dance as cultural identity, and that's something that I've been writing about quite a bit. So this was really great, and I would highly recommend this. Even if you're an adult, this is this is something that I would highly recommend. It has literally everything that you need for the basics, and leading up to, a career. So, yeah, so even some of the pictures, it's like 90s, 80s, kind of cute. Okay. And then I have, this is a book that I got last year, I believe. And this is my Encyclopedia of Ballet. And this is by Viviana Durante. And she is a consultant. And just a little look inside. See, this is what I love. I love learning about the history of, everything that we do. And, there's lots of information in here. And another part that I love is it also talks about, historical figures in ballet like Marie Taglioni. So, reminders of my craft, everything that I love, and what brings me joy. Next, I will share. This is a book that I have regarding my image and my identity with ballet, and this has changed over the years, but you know what? What I've noticed is I've really scaled back in terms of the amount of like hair products that I use. I don't dye my hair anymore. I take care of my hair a lot more. My skin, I usually just do minimal makeup. And you know what? I feel like I look the best that I have in a very long time. But in terms of my appearance, and this is something that some of my teachers have always spoken to me about growing up in the performing arts industry, is working on image. And at the time, like many things that I've mentioned in this video, I didn't really take it too seriously. But now I found that, yes, I needed to lose weight in order to get a job, quote unquote. But it's not that they were saying these things because they hated me, but they seriously saw something that, it has a potential, and I don't want to die in my potential either. So, one thing that has really transformed me in terms of my appearance and how I feel about myself is going to the gym, eating a lot healthier, and, through that I was able to scale down, and, my hair is healthier. I have a more positive body image, self-perception, and self-image. And I'll go a little bit into those in another video when I talk more about my beauty routines. But anyway, so I have a list about, makeup and hair projects that I want to do for myself, bun hairstyles. And because, I didn't focus a whole lot on ballet, I didn't get to dress up like different characters in ballets, and, I didn't, learn all the different repertoires of the different major full-length ballets. So I'm revisiting some things, and it makes it all the more precious, I think. So these are some of the buns that I'm hoping to do, and one of my favorite YouTubers that I used to follow, or I still do, is Catherine Morgan. So those are some of her bun hairstyles, and then I have some inspirational quotes in there, as well as vocabulary for different exams for our AD. But who knows, maybe I'll do a Vega Nova exam this year. All right. I also have another book that's really important, and this is my ballet history binder. And this is where I've been doing research on things like the Firebird, Don Quixote, the Pharaoh's Daughter, Swan Lake, etc. And I'm going through all of my favorite ballets, as well as new ballets that, well, I guess I wouldn't really call them new, but newer, and ones that are lesser known to the greater audience. So I'm looking into some of these and figuring out which ones that I really like and enjoy and perhaps would want to create. So I'm a little bit behind, and these are the ballets that I'm supposed to study for the month of May, and that includes the Apollo, Lady of the Camillas, and then for June I have Spectro de la Rose, Spartacus. For July I have Sylvia, I have La Corsaire, I have Onegin, and yeah, so that's my third binder that I use, and then I have a few other things, so give me 1 minute here.